this thing on. Right. So, we recently celebrated the feast day of none other than Saint Joseph. He's known by many titles: Terror of Demons, Foster Father to our Blessed Lord. But lately I've started to think of him in a different light. Started to think of him as sort of a father to the fatherless. I haven't always been able to appreciate the model that Saint Joseph had to offer young lost boys such as myself. See, lost boys like us, we tend to live out our formative years in a desperate search in order to fill this gap left by an absent father figure. And sometimes this takes the form of searching in the world for alternative father figures, be it in celebrities, influencers, heck, even TV shows. And what people like us, what we tend to do is we essentially model our entire personality after these figures. Figure after figure, we adopt different traits and personalities because we just don't know who we can model ourselves after. And sometimes this leaves one a somewhat well-rounded young man who's managed to explore the many facets of his identity and somehow become a well-adjusted man in society. But this, nonetheless, it still leaves an empty hole that does not know a father's love. After all, who is a lost boy to turn to when he finds himself indeed lost? In an age where every bloody fool on the internet has a voice, a lost boy finds himself bombarded with worldly ideas. And while they say there's no perfect parent but God, but where is he then when you need him? Where is he then when you just want someone to tell you what you should do? Sometimes you wish that God, like a father, even a bad one, could just tell you what to do. But God doesn't work that way, does he? To quote Fatherless from Daredevil, which is an amazing show and I think everyone should watch it, there's the scene where a young Matt Murdock, Daredevil, he's in the orphanage and he's lamenting to Fatherless. He's saying that, Father, I pray every day. I do pray, but God doesn't listen. He doesn't answer me. And to that, Father Lantom says, the burning bush business, that doesn't happen very often, even in the Bible. God is often more subtle than that, because he speaks and whispers. So that said, perhaps it is indeed Joseph the silent foster father of God himself whom we lost boys need to turn to. A role model who offers no words of advice except his example. With a grand total of 0 words recorded in the Bible, his silence can be deafening when you allow it to point you to the whispers of the Almighty. Contrast that to the noisy, opinionated voices that come up on your reels and your TikTok feeds. It's only when we learn to tune out the loud voices of this world that we may truly hear God's voice and finally be able to just simply listen and say yes to his will in complete obedience, just as Mary did. I always was more of a Mary boy, but I think looking at Saint Joseph in this light has really allowed me to merely go to Joseph. That's how the saying goes, isn't it? And just learn to follow his example and his silence, and be able to keep the silence and listen to God's whispers. In a world where masculinity is defined by the loud voices of either people like Andrew Tate or man-hating feminazis, let us find the deepest wisdom in the example of none other than the foster father of God himself, the ultimate and perfect example of masculinity, Joseph the Silent.